Welcome to Fantasy Week. I don't want to be here. No, I am joking, mostly. I like fantasy. It intimidates me. I find it very scary. I think I've said this in every single video I've ever discussed fantasy in. I'm dyslexic and ADHD, and I can't read half of the words in fantasy books. The names, the places, the creatures, whatever. I find it difficult. So far, my foray into fantasy, I think I've read Fourth Wing and the Atlas Six, which is light fantasy anyway. I kind of want to say that's it. Like maybe one or two others, but I can't really think off the top of my head. Like I can only think of 2 fantasy books that I've read cover to cover. But point being, I struggle with the genre, but I also do really genuinely enjoy it. So I am challenging myself to spend an entire week reading fantasy books. However, I'm not going to lie to you. I've actually already read the first book of this video, and it's taken me about a month and a half. So when we say a week, we're putting that with a little asterisk, because this video has actually become very time consuming and I still have 2 books to read. But that first book is done. I actually have a clip of me unboxing that and then all of the footage of me reading it. So we'll play that after this. But the other books that we'll be reading in this video I'm going to discuss now. The first of those being the one book that I have said over and over again that I am going to read. I have spent months promising to read this book and I have been a liar time and time again. But no more. A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas is getting read in this video. Finally reading this. I haven't started this yet, so I have no idea what to expect. So we'll be reading this, we'll be reading... I can't find it. Oh, I've rearranged my books into rainbow order and it's really inconvenient. We will also be reading in this video Quiet Thunder by J.P. Harker. Again, I'm going into that book completely blind, so I have no expectations or know what to expect from this. And then the third book we will be reading, actually I might leave it a mystery. You can see in the unboxing in the next clip. I feel like this introduction has made 0 sense. We're reading 3 fantasy books. This is one of them. This is the other one. And the next book you're gonna find out now. So get comfortable. This might be a long video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Lots of love. Goodbye. I have a very exciting parcel. I pre-ordered this when you were meant to pre-order before it came out, and I then realised that it was going to be coming like a day after I was going on holiday, and it was just going to basically sit on my front door for a week. And I was like, I don't want it to get damaged or like nicked or anything, so I was like, I'm gonna have to cancel my pre-order, and it upset me to my core. I'd had that pre-order in for so long and I had to cancel it, and it was heartbreaking. Okay, that was very dramatic, but I did have to cancel my pre-order and I had to reorder it. All of this to say, I have been waiting for this for so long and I was so excited, and we're now going to open this together. So, without further ado, oh, satisfying. It's thick. Oh my goodness, this is thick. I didn't realise how thick this was. How many pages are we talking? 620 pages. I thought Fourth Wing was big. I'm so excited. So, if you hadn't already guessed, we're about to read Iron Flame. This is the second book in the Fourth Wing series. I have Fourth Wing here. They look so pretty together. For size comparison, it doesn't look that much bigger in the viewfinder, but it is. Also, the pages are like bright white. I am so excited. I finished Fourth Wing probably only like a month ago. I read Fourth Wing quite late. But it kind of worked out really well because it's perfect timing for Iron Flame coming out. I actually haven't really heard anyone talk about this yet, so I'm going into this blind. I have no idea what happens in this. I have no idea if people like it. I have no idea what to expect. But I have the highest of hopes because I had a very, very good time with Fourth Wing. So we're going to be starting Iron Flame right now, and I will obviously bring you along and give you my thoughts. But yes, very, very excited. So I've made it to page 174 of Iron Flame. I'm not gonna lie, it's taken me quite a long time to get here. Partly because I've had so many other books to read for other videos, but also for some reason it just took me so long to remember what was going on. but I didn't even read the other book that long ago. But I think all of the names of like the places and the characters and the dragons, like I keep having to be like, who's that again? But I think I'm kind of finally getting in the swing of it now. The like main two, like Xaden and Violet, have definitely, obviously the end of the last book was so crazy and so much happened, and they have kind of reset to this sort of, not quite enemies to lovers, but it feels like they've kind of gone back to having that tension, but not quite that tension. It's like that, but less. It's like they just don't trust each other now and they feel like they can't be together. But they're also basically separated in this book. Like they very rarely see each other, at least up to this point. They're kind of being kept apart. Not actually getting as many of their interactions. You're more hearing about like how Violet's feeling about him and like when she's missing him and stuff, but you're not getting so many interactions. Oh, he is in it. He's just in it a bit less than the first book. Up to this point anyway, I'm expecting that's probably going to change later. This book so far is, I would say, definitely a little bit slower paced than the first book. I think they've gone for more like character driven now. I guess everyone knows the characters so well now and everyone fell in love with the characters so much in the first book that I think she's kind of gone back to a place of like getting to know each of the characters a bit more deeply, I'm guessing. So there's less action going on, although you still kind of have the whole politics side of it. I think this book so far anyway, to me, is a bit more politics based. The war is being talked about a lot more and it's playing a much larger part of the plot this time, so I definitely think the politics is a lot heavier. We've still got a long way to go. I'm a bit over a quarter, I would say. This is a long book. I've heard the ending of this book is absolutely crazy again. I think it's another cliffhanger, which I kind of love and kind of don't. And I'm assuming this next book won't be coming out for ages, because I mean, this only just came out. So in some ways it's good to savour it, but also this video needs to come out, so I actually do need to crack on with this. Absolutely no idea if you can see me, but we have a power cut and I need to finish reading this. So we're going to attempt to read it by candlelight. I've just been talking to the camera for like half an hour and I literally haven't been filming. That is so annoying! I've literally just been sat here. I changed the camera angle because I was like, oh, this lighting's really bad. And I've sat here talking to the camera about this freaking book for the last 20 minutes and it wasn't even recording. Okay, well, to repeat, I was saying that we've made it to page 446, so a bit over 2/3, I would say. It has taken quite a long time to get here, but the pace is starting to pick up now, which is fun. I think around the halfway mark it started picking up. The first half was definitely slower. It focused a lot more on like Violet and Xaden. It was a lot of Violet and Xaden arguing. They are at each other's throats, but like also not really. But they're kind of like circling arguments quite a lot, which I guess the point of that is to show that their relationship is like not working, but there are like fundamental issues that no one's willing to compromise on. But that's frustrating as well, because then I'm like, guys, we need to figure this out or we need to break up. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I think from about the halfway mark, the pace has definitely picked up a bit from like part 2, I guess. It's very war and politics heavy. Like all the stuff that was building up in the first book, for anyone who's read it, all this stuff about like the wars and the archives and like all the secrets with that. Obviously I can't say because of spoilers, but this book is definitely very heavily focused on that stuff, I would say. But yeah, we've got 180, no one check my maths-ish pages left. So I'm hoping we can get through that all today. I start work at 6 p.m. so it is doable. But yeah, I'm excited for the ending because I've heard it's another like big cliffhanger or like exciting stuff, and the end of Fourth Wing was really exciting, so I feel like this should be a good ending as well. But yeah, I'm gonna try and finish this today and we will see. We did it! Oh, this feels like an accomplishment. Guys, I know the title of this video says reading fantasy for a week. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Don't tell the others. This has taken me a month to read. I started this in December. That's over a month. Oh, fantasy books just take me so long to read. I'm very aware that we've still got another 2 to go. We still have another 2 full books, but I think the other 2 books are at least slightly shorter than this, which was 623 pages. And boy, did it take me a while. But I'm very glad to say that I have finished the book. The ending did live up to what everyone was saying. The ending was very crazy. It has set the 3rd book up very nicely. There is probably going to be very exciting stuff happening in the 3rd book. The pace of this got so much quicker towards the end, and it definitely had the pace that the 1st book had. But yeah, I am glad to say that we finished this, because I do feel like this has been sitting next to my bedside table for a very long time. And to be fair, I've had books to read for other videos, which is half why it took me so long. But it's just also, there are so many names and places in here, and it takes me so long to remember who everyone is. And that is the biggest issue I have with fantasies. I've said it so many times, is because I'm dyslexic. It might not even be because of that, it might just be that I'm not used to the genre actually, but it just takes me so long to like understand all the different names and all the different places, and then process like where that person is in relation to that thing, and like I do struggle with it, which is why I think it took me quite so long. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous to now jump into an entire different fantasy world, because I do normally take a break in between genres, and I do not have the time to do that because this video is coming out soon. So we're moving straight on from Iron Flame to the other big boy in this genre that I have been promising to read for so long, and it's finally happening. A little indie underground book you've probably not heard of, ACOTAR Balls and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. How many pages is this one? 419 pages. It's not short, but after Iron Flame, I feel like we can do this. Also, it's like smaller because it's a paperback. We are going to be starting A Court of Thorns and Roses. I know absolutely nothing about this. I've said it before in many a video. I have read the blurb for this countless times and I do not understand it. So I think we're just going to stop worrying about it and we're just going to jump into it, and I will obviously keep you updated as we go. Everyone, wish me luck, because we need to read this and another fantasy book in about 4 days, so that'll be interesting. Let's go! I don't want to hit my camera. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. It's the next day. I'm literally on page 20. I've already got a complaint. Right. So the bad guys, I guess, are called fairies. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's spelled like fairies, but like wrong. Like, I don't know. I think fairies. They're like the even badder people. I don't know how fantasy works. They're called High Fae, and the main girl is called Feyre. Why are they all called the same thing? How am I meant to follow that? She's called Feyre, the bad guys are called fairies, and the even badder guys are called High Fae. Like, am I missing something? Is she linked to them and that's like a hint to it? Otherwise, why are you picking names that are so similar? Anyway, other than that, I'm quite enjoying it. I am literally on page 20. But like, I'm trying to like figure out all these magical systems, which is the biggest issue I have with fantasy books, and you've made all the names the same. Anyway, that is my only update because I am literally on page 20. Bros, it's literally the next day and I am about 40% through. I'm on page 182 of A Court of Thorns and Roses. I literally thought I'd read about 30 pages of this. Like, I don't know what happened. I'm actually flying through this. The story just jumped in and she went. She went and I was like, hey, I'll come with you. This just surprised me how quick I've flown through this, because Iron Flame took me so much concentration, and that was the second book in a series. But I don't know if that's just because, I mean, A, this is shorter anyway and like the pages are smaller because it's a paperback. But I don't know if maybe Iron Flame like set me up, like it kind of put me in the fantasy mood, because I've gone from one quite high concept fantasy to another, and it's kind of like, okay, well now I'm in the mood for it and I'm like, my brain's in like focus. I'm guessing it's partially that, but also I think just because like the pages are literally smaller, I'm just like making more progress because I'm like turning pages more regularly. Does that make any sense? I don't know. I know the last time I updated I was complaining. I take back my complaints. It's really not that confusing. The people that the humans are warring with are called fairies. The High Fae and the High Lords are like at the top of them, and then she's called Feyre. I'm still not totally sure why they've called her Feyre and then fairies. I still think it's a bold decision from Miss Sarah J Maas, but hey, who am I to judge? You've sold millions of copies, probably more, I don't know, I haven't done any research, this is not a research channel. You've sold a lot of books. Who am I to judge? You call your characters whatever you like. Basically, I've stopped complaining and I'm enjoying it. Sorry, I got overexcited and now I'm quite warm. I feel like I never explain what this book is about. I sort of assume everyone under the sun other than me has read it, but just a very, very quick update, which you can skip ahead if you don't want to hear. But basically, this is the story of a girl called Feyre who is living with her two sisters who are not very nice and her dad who he's got like an injured leg, an injured knee, so he can't really do a lot, and the two sisters basically refuse to do anything. And they used to be quite rich, but they lost all their money, so now they are hunting. They like need to hunt everything they need to eat, but Feyre's the only one who does it. She kills a wolf, which turns out to have not been a good decision. A High Lord called Tamlin basically comes and kidnaps her, kind of. It's a gentle kidnapping, if you will. Takes him back to his lands, which are like the warring lands from the humans, and now she's living there. And there is development. I won't say any more, but that's the general gist of it. And I'm having a good vibey time. And I will say, I've spent months saying that I was scared to read this. I was definitely overreacting. Yeah, this is actually very easy to read. It's definitely high concept fantasy, but it's just written in a very accessible way. Anyway, all of that to say, I've made it 40% through and I'm gonna keep going. Guys, I've just got back from puppy therapy. If you've never done it, I highly recommend. Freaking look! It's not the most precious thing you've ever seen. It was sausage dog week. They were so cute. There was a little spotty one. Most adorable thing you've ever seen. Anyway, the point of this being, sausage dogs are super cute, but also I read a bunch on the train on the way there, and I've now made it to page 320 of A Court, Thorns and Roses. So I am, what do you reckon, 70% through? Guys, I get it. I don't want to be a basic girly who like just likes all of the TikTok recommendations, but like I feel like TikTok's done it again. I do like it. It is good. The pace just keeps on moving and I've literally flown through this. I've read so much of this today and it's one of those books where I'm like getting sad that it's about to end, and that to me is a beautiful sign, because that doesn't always happen for me in books. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm ready for this to be done. Let's wrap this up. I'm not having this. I'm having a wonderful time. I understand the magic system and the Feyre, High Fae, Fairies conundrum that I did have before. We've got past that. As it turns out, it wasn't particularly hard to get past anyway. I'm having a good time. I love this. I don't know why I'm wearing a coat. There's a romance subplot in this, which isn't quite as heavy as I was expecting based on all of the chatter that I've heard about it. Like in my head, this was going to be like basically a romance story with some fantasy, and I feel like it is the opposite. But I kind of like the balance, because the balance feels like Feyre is like a complete whole person with like personality and family and like goals and hobbies and stuff. And then the romance is like an extra element that like feeds off really well of the plot and like builds the plot. But pretty much exactly 100 pages left. So we're very near the end, which is kind of sad, but this is a series, so it's fine. I don't know if all of the books follow this character or not, because we've met Rysand, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but we've met Rysand in this book, and I'm pretty sure I've heard a lot about him, which makes me think that he is quite a big part of the other books. So I don't know if we're always following Feyre. I feel like we probably will be. I don't know, I could Google it, but I'm not going to. I don't want to like find spoilers by accident. Basically, update is I have cuddled puppies this afternoon, so I'm a very happy girl. And I'm reading ACOTAR for the first time, so I'm also a happy girl. Life is good, man. I'm on page 352. I've accidentally just seen the last line of the book. I think it's okay. I don't think it was a spoiler. It's not really a spoiler. No, it's not. It's a tiny bit of a spoiler, but not really. I don't think it really is. I think I'm overthinking it. I'm so annoyed. I was just trying to look at how many pages there were. A rookie error. And yeah, I saw the last line. I think it's okay.
I'm freaking loving this book. I'm gonna finish it tonight, I think. It's literally already midnight and I'm so tired, but I think I just want to stay up and finish this book. I actually love it so much, man.
Guys, I finished. Freaking love it. Freaking love it. I have put this book off for months. I've owned this for so long and I don't know why. I don't know why I didn't get to this sooner. I was so like, in my head I just didn't think it was going to be a book for me. I don't know, there's something about fantasy in my head that's just like, it's just not for you. Man, I freaking loved this. Obsessed. I am so excited to read the second one. The fact that the second book is, I don't know how many pages, but it's huge. I reckon it's like 600 pages. That makes me excited. Normally I see a massive book like that and I'm like, oh, for God's sakes. But I'm like, great. I need more of the story, more of these pages. I can't believe this is my first Sarah J Maas book. Yeah. Will not be my last. The plot just flowed the entire time. The like romance was interesting, but it wasn't like overpowering. And there's like a secondary character who comes in who kind of, I can't explain it, but I feel like it's gonna play an important role in the rest of the series. Obviously if you've read it you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I don't want to spoil anything. But those dynamics were so interesting to me because it wasn't just like simple cut like this is the love interest, done, which I found interesting and I feel like it's going to make for a really interesting setup for the rest of the book, particularly with certain deals that she made in like the sort of last third of this book. I feel like this book had a bit of everything. It had the war, it had the politics, it had the romance, it had like the family, the adventure. It was so fast paced, it moved so quickly. I literally have flown through this, I read it so quickly. And yeah, loved it. I can't wait to read the rest of the series. Now, we are in fact going to start the third and final fantasy book of this video, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous because it does have to follow this. But I have every faith. I have every single faith. However, I will say, because I finished this last night, I started the prologue of this morning and I have literally read the prologue, so that's what, like 5 pages? I can already tell that this is a much more complicated fantasy. There are so many names in this. I mean, I'm literally on about page 6. Like, I have only read the prologue. I can already tell that my brain is going to need to focus because I already have no idea who anyone is. But like, I understand that's the start of a book. I feel like there is going to be so much politics in this book that I'm going to need to focus on. But I probably shouldn't really make any judgments yet. We are literally on page 10. But so far, like I thought this was confusing with the whole Feyre, Fairies, High Fae thing. 10 pages into this and I shouldn't have been complaining in this one. Anyway, point being, loved this. Gonna start this now. I'm excited and I'm actually in quite a fantasy mood now. Unflaming this have definitely put me in the mood, so it's not like me to enjoy reading genres back to back, but I feel like, yeah, I'm just in a fantasy mood at the moment. So going to crack on with this and I will obviously update you as and when. Good morning. I have made it to page 112 of Quiet Thunder. And I'll be honest, I don't have the foggiest what's going on. It's really engaging writing and I have got here really quickly. But I don't think I have ever in my 23 years of existence read a book with this many characters. I don't know who anyone is. No, I am being a bit dramatic. I am kind of getting the hang of it. But this book has a tendency to introduce lots of minor characters, like it will give the names for everyone, even if it's just like someone you're meeting in passing. And I am finding that quite confusing. But I've kind of gotten used to the style now. This is definitely hardcore fantasy. Like I feel like the other 2 books we've read in this video were like romanticities. They were a bit more maybe easing me into the genre. This has thrown me into the deep end and I can't swim. I can swim. In the metaphor, I can't swim. So this follows basically 2 people, I think. One of them is called Carrion or Carrian. The other one is called Randon. So Carrion basically lives on like, I think quite a rich estate, and she's in training to be a steward, which I don't know what that is, but it's something. And Randon is like part of a tribe who are killing a bunch of people. This book has been very politics and war heavy, so I am slightly struggling to keep up with the politics in the world. It basically, it's something to do with the tribe that Randon's a part of is trying to liberate, I think, the Catavan. No, maybe they are the Catavan tribe. Okay, I'm not sure who is who. I am finding that a little bit confusing, but Randon's tribe are basically trying to take over Carrion's world. I think they're trying to like liberate them from some like way that they're living. They're living under another tribe's rules, and I think this new tribe that Randon's a part of is basically trying to liberate them from that, but they kind of liberate them by killing them. I'm not sure you should totally take my explanation of this as gospel, because it is a little unclear in my head. But the writing style is super engaging, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of Game of Thrones in the sense that they will introduce characters who you get quite attached to and like you think are going to be important to the story, and then they just kill them. And that really reminds me of Game of Thrones, because I feel like in Game of Thrones you were like, oh, this is going to be the main character for the whole series, and then they die 10 minutes later and you're like, oh, cool. I feel like I'm starting to get the hang of it. That maybe didn't come across in this clip, but I think I'm starting to get the hang of what's going on. But there are so many names and so many different tribes, and it is getting all a little bit muddled in my little brain. But I'm trying my best. But I am reading it really quickly. It flows really easily, and it's like fairly fast paced and stuff. There's a lot happening. Anyway, I'm about a third of the way through. I'm going to keep going with this, and I will, yeah, I'll give you an update probably maybe when I'm like halfway-ish. Hey friends, we have made it to page 208 of Quiet Thunder, so about just over 60% through, which I read all of in one day. I went to London and I just read a whole bunch on the train. And this reads so quickly. Like, I'm quite a slow reader, and I feel like I actually flew through this. I mean, I read something like 150 pages in one day, which for me is impressive. I feel like I'm starting to get the hang of it. It did take me a little bit to get into, to like get my head around all of the different tribes and the politics, and I think I've mostly got it. I'm sure there are a few details that have evaded me slightly, but I understand the basics enough to like know what's going on, to know who's like fighting who and all that jazz, because there is a lot of like war and fighting in here, and the pace is really, really quick, which I love. I love a quick paced book, but it does mean you kind of have to stay switched on. Like, I think you have to focus to read this book. But that's fine. We're not against a book that challenges us. I will say, if you're squeamish, probably not a book for you. I'm not too bad with like being squeamish. Like, I don't mind blood and stuff. This is intense. There are multiple body parts chopped off, and I have to do that thing, I don't know if anyone else does it, but where you like hold the body part of like your own to like check it's still there. Does anyone do that? If there's like a finger gets cut off in a film, you have to like hold your finger to like be like, it's not my finger, it's fine. Is that just me? I really hope someone relates to that, because I always do that, and I've literally been doing that the entire way through this book, because the people in this book are disgusting and horrible. Not all of them, most of them. A good amount of them are just actually terrible people who do terrible things. One of the tribes and one of the tribe leaders is pretty barbaric, and basically if they feel like someone's crossed them, even like remotely, even if they just like speak out of line like a tiny bit, they're like, no, let's just chop body parts off of you. This book makes me feel icky, but like not in a bad way. Like, I don't mind that, but I have been reading it being like, ew. This is definitely the most intense of the three fantasy books in terms of like content and politics and war and like just the genre, if that makes sense. is the most intense. So I'm glad I read this one last, because I think I needed the other two almost as like a warm-up for the genre for me. But if you're a lot more averse in fantasy than I am, you'd probably have a breeze with this and be like, what are you talking about? It's really not that complicated. But my little brain is not used to fantasy books and all of the different tribes and all of the made-up worlds and the made-up places, and I'm struggling. But I'm definitely getting the hang of it now. But yes, 130-ish pages left, so we should get that done today, but I'll obviously check in with you at the end of the day and let you know how we're doing.
Everyone ignore my soaking wet hair. And yes, I do wash my hair with a full face of makeup. Everyone in my life thinks it's bizarre. Honestly, I think it's bizarre, but it's fine. I wash my face when I take my makeup off. I don't know, I've just always done it, okay? I know it's bizarre. Anyway, filming on my phone because I can't be bothered, just get my camera out because I'm lazy. But I'm going to finish this now. I read quite a lot on the train today, so I'm on page 312. So I've literally got maybe like 20-30 pages left, so we're going to finish this now. It's getting like sad. There are good characters dying. I feel like no one's safe in this book. But yeah, gonna finish this now and I'll check in with you when I'm done.
I stayed up last night and I finished Quiet Thunder. So we have now read 3 fantasy books in 7 days, except that the first one took me a month and a half. We've read 2 fantasy books in about 7 days. I was looking at the author actually when I finished this, and he's actually written so many books. I didn't count, but it was probably like 10. Like for some reason I had it in my head that this was his debut, but he's actually got a whole series that I think he's still working on. I think this is a standalone, although there is kind of, the ending is like it is wrapped up and resolved, but there's kind of like maybe room for a sequel. Like there was an offer made. I don't want to spoil anything, but there was an offer made that is like, oh, maybe that could be a sequel, like potentially, but it was also like wrapped up and reads completely happily as a standalone. His writing style is super engaging and you can just absolutely fly through it. It is incredibly war heavy, so if you're into like big battles and like war politics and betrayal and fighting and that kind of thing, then this is absolutely for you. It's very war and politics heavy. It's different to the other 2 we've read in this video. There's no romance. There was no cutesy romance story. There was lots of body parts chopped off, which was graphic. I've never been particularly like worried about like gruesome stuff. It doesn't overly bother me, but this one did make me feel a bit icky inside. But that's okay, that's not necessarily a bad feeling. It's just like, it was a guttural response to like, oh, this book is brutal. Like that's the best word for this book, is brutal. The characters are brutal. There's lots of threats of sexual violence in this, so I would be aware of that, because the characters in here are, for the most part, just really horrible people. There's a few with like much more redeeming characteristics, and there are some who are a lot more likeable. A lot of them die, but you know. It does, I think I said it earlier, but it does remind me of Game of Thrones. It reminds me of Game of Thrones quite a lot anyway, like in terms of like style and tone, but it also reminds me of Game of Thrones in that sense of like, you get attached to a character and then they're just killed off. But it keeps you on your toes. But yes, we have reached the end of today's video. Would you look at that? 3 fantasy books. I'm not gonna lie to you, it feels like a lifetime since I read this. So in today's video, we read Iron Flame, which was a 600-page fantasy, which took me a very, very long time to get through, but does have a very fun ending. It has set the 3rd book up very nicely, but I don't think the 3rd book is probably coming out for probably a long time, because I'm pretty sure this only came out at the end of 2023, right? So I reckon we've got at least another year before the next one's out. Then we finally read ACOTAR by Sarah J Maas. I am so happy I finally read this. This was super fast-paced, another romantasy. It had a very strong romance subplot, which I think probably builds to be a sort of love triangle, and the rest of the series is at least the vibe that I'm getting. I'm actually incredibly excited for the rest of the series. I know they are much longer. I own A Court of Mist and Fury and Wings and Ruin. I don't own the other 2 yet. Yeah, this one's 626, so they definitely get significantly longer. But do you know what? This one was so fast-paced that I'm not even worried about that. And then finally we read J.P. Harker's Quiet Thunder, which was very different to the other 2. There was no romance. It was less like high concept. There were no like magic systems and dragons. It was more to do with like very brutal tribes and war and fighting, and it was more like politics and war heavy, but still read super quickly. There you have it. I have doubled the number of fantasy books that I've read in this one video. And you know what? I'm actually really happy I did this, because I do feel more inclined now to pick up fantasy. I feel like I have a slightly better grasp on the genre, because I went into specifically this book thinking that I just wasn't going to understand it, and actually I had definitely been like psyching myself up and like worrying myself when I didn't need to, because this was completely accessible and understandable and I didn't have any issues with it at all. My next priority is definitely continuing the ACOTAR series. I'm very excited about that. I have been editing this video as I go, so I already know that this video is incredibly long, probably my longest video ever. At least to this date. So if you've stuck around to this point, you're a real one, and you should 1000% subscribe. Like, it only makes sense. No, but for real, thank you so much for watching. Please do subscribe. It does mean the world to me, and I hope you have a wonderful, lovely, magnificent, beautiful, all-encompassing, heartwarming, wholesome rest of your day.